Welcome, everyone. We are really excited about what you're going to learn today. We have a special guest speaker. Her name is Molly Hillenbrand. And I'm telling you, we've been watching her for a while. As you guys know, we're very careful about who we bring to you because there are a lot of people who are really awesome at business. And we can bring a whole parade of people, but we want to make sure these are people who are doing it where they care more about the clients, where they're serving people, they're service oriented, they do it with morals, with values. You guys know that's important to us. And we also love showing you how it can be done. Where, you guys know I have this thing where I talk about don't, there's never a need to sacrifice your family to create your business. And a lot of people will use that hashtag, oh yeah, just you got to sacrifice that for just a little while. No, you don't actually. And that's just one of the ways that we break the rules. And I know that Molly is a rule breaker. And for those of you who are new to our channel, we want to kind of share with you what rule breakers are, because some people act like they have to break the rules by going against authority and showing how they don't have to do what they're told. That is not what we're talking about at all. We are talking about it in the most positive, empowering way that you can imagine. It's all about, we do not need to do things the way everyone else has done it in the past. There are new ways to do it. As entrepreneurs, we are problem solvers. And Molly totally embodies this in what she does. Let me tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to have her share some of her story. And we have some pretty exciting things and some secret questions that we're going to ask her. Hopefully we won't put her on the spot, but we're excited about this. So honestly, Molly is just known for being a powerhouse in PR skills. She is amazing at getting your story out there. She founded her company. It's Hillenbrand Media, and she started it years ago. And you're the founder, you're the executive producer. Your company focuses on promoting entrepreneurs, making sure that business owners get out there in, making sure their story is told and making sure it's done in the right way. So we're going to ask Molly some questions about that, because there are ways that you can get yourself into trouble, actually, and there are ways you can get yourself out of trouble if you do this right. She's produced nationwide a variety of segments for ION channel. She gives viewers insight on what's going on in her city, and her industry as well. She's a really hard worker. So I'm really excited to bring her to you. Let me tell you some of the places where you need to understand who you're listening to. She has been on the cover of Formidable Woman Magazine. Okay. So apparently you do not mess with Molly. Hey, that needs to be a tagline. Don't mess with Molly. There's got to be an M word that means don't. And it's MMM. That would be cool. Okay. So you are asked to speak on stages about entrepreneurship. But one of the things that I love, I mean, you are renowned. You're invited to speak on podcasts all over. Hello, ours. And we were lucky to get you. And yet, one of the things I love about, if you look up Molly and you start kind of like, what do you call it? Stalking her like we do. I probably should.
We all do it. We all do it.
But if you go check her out, you will see that her most important thing to her is her family. And her biggest passion is being a mom. And you guys know, I love that. I know you don't have to sacrifice that. So honestly, she inspires people all around her. And her biggest thing is that she wants to help people make sure they have meaningful conversations and be able to tell their story. And she believes, well, let's let you share some of what you believe about everyone's story. So Molly, thank you for coming. Welcome. We're honored to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. We're so aligned. I love the name of your podcast and show, and I just am so thrilled. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to know is what what do you mean you have meaningful conversations? You want people to be able to share their story. Tell us what you feel about that. What do you think about that? And what's your mission?
Absolutely. So I started Hillenbrand Media back in 2017, and it came out of a love of really first just helping my friends. Before I was even a company doing this for everybody, I was helping my friends who had passions and small businesses, and they just didn't know how to get started. And they just thought that they had to put up photos of a product or something that they were doing, and that would do it. And I said, oh, no, 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 no. People, you have to humanize.
So much more to it than that.
There's way more to it than that. Okay. You have to get people to buy into why it's important, why your restaurant, your business, your passion, why should it matter to me? Right. And so it's one of the toughest parts of what I do is you have to be the face of your business. People have to see you. They have to hear you. They have to know why it's your why and that it matters. Because if it matters to you, then it's going to start mattering to me. And
so to buy into your why.
Mm-hmm. And for me, just personally, I mean, way back when I was a psychology major. So I've always been fascinated by the human mind, how people work, why they make decisions that they do, why they choose certain paths. And so it just came out of a real honest interest to get to know people. And what I found was when I sat down with people, well, first, when I started Hillenbrand Media, I was brought on by the Ion channels to be an on-air host. And that was great. But they also knew that I was good at making things bigger and making brands have bigger exposure. And so I said, great, if you guys want to get bigger, then we can't just be Ion South Florida. We've got to be Ion Chicago, Ion New York, Ion LA. We got to take over. And they said, great, go do that. And I said, oh, me? Okay. So I learned very quickly how to produce, how to edit, how to,
Oh my goodness.
It was crazy, but you know what? That's what we love as entrepreneurs, right? Give me a challenge. Tell me to go do something and I'll try, I'll do it. And so I fell in love with that whole part of it. But I started filming these segments, right? Of people promoting their restaurant, their business, their job, whatever they were doing. Some public figures as well, if they had a big event or a red carpet. And what I loved most when I started doing it was when we were done doing our little promotion and whatever, and the camera crew was packing up, I then sat down and spoke to them and they told me their whole life story. And I'm like, man, we should have gotten that on tape and on camera because that's the fascinating part. People want to hear this. So then I kind of pivoted what I was doing to these more in-depth interviews of the people that I find fascinating and that inspire me and that I think would inspire others. And so that's what started my new Spotlight series, which I'm producing. And because of COVID and everything we've been through this past year, I turned it into a podcast during that time. But this summer, I'm back on the road and filming again. And I'm so excited to share these really impactful stories of people who took the path less traveled, because that's what inspires me, and had tremendous success doing it, or people who have overcome some incredible obstacles. And they got to where they are today, and they teach me. Every new episode, every new segment I film, I learned so much.
Right. That's amazing. And what I love, did you guys notice exactly what happened? Her pivot was actually going straight from really trying to help people to caring so deeply about them. Tell me what happened, because I'm always telling everybody it's got to be about them. You got to care more about them than you care about you. When you made that transition to focusing on their stories and making sure those got told, tell me what happened to your business. How much did your business grow? What changed?
It was like, nothing is overnight. Don't get me wrong. I've spent 20 years to become an overnight success. Okay. Okay. That's the truth. But the impact that you have when you become vulnerable, right? And you share that vulnerable part of you, you can measure it, because I can't tell you how many comments, the interactions, the new follows. Oh, I want to be featured too. I mean, I've just had to add on more dates to my filming because everybody wants to share their story. And it's one of the few silver linings of this past year is that people have become much more aware that there's a deeper layer to all of us. And you need to ask those questions. What is your intent with your business? How are you giving back? What are you doing to serve your community? And that's what I get to share. And so people want that out there. They want people and their customers or their audience to know what they're doing for their community, not just the services that they provide. And so, it's instantaneous. And it took off on all fronts, the podcast, my business, my personal, followers, et cetera.
As far as financials, your business grew, did it?
100%.
100% growth.
Oh, I would say even.
Did you have 10% growth? I took that as 100%. You mean 100%?
I agree with you 100%. But, now that I'm thinking.
Did it?
Yeah, at least.
10%?
Yeah.
Did it double? Did it?
I would say double or triple. Wow. What I'm able to charge, all of it. Yeah, for sure.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. And you know what's interesting? As you're talking, I'm thinking about how being vulnerable is so difficult, and people people think they're being vulnerable because they share a little bit, but they're not really going all the way deep. And in
Right.
this world right now where there's so much online hate and, like trash talk, what you're talking about is something that I thought about that because of what you mentioned before we went live. And you were talking about how you want people to understand the story before they judge. And when people know your whole story, they're a lot less likely to judge. And what's interesting for me is that I built this massive business. I built a business that got to $1 billion in sales every single year. And I thought I was being vulnerable, and because I was sharing some, personal stuff and hard things. But as I've launched this new business, so that I continue to do that. But now I'm sharing this story. I'm about to post this. In fact, this is like the first time I'm like sharing this. I'm about to post it on my website, and I've been featured on a magazine. I'm going to be on the cover. And so in the
Congratulations.
story, thank you. In the
That's
story, I'm
awesome.
sharing this, and I'm talking about how, a lot of people say, oh, I went from rags to riches, or I started here and this is where I am now. My story is Teresa Harding went from being a liar and a thief to building $1 billion company based on trust and integrity. And so, even saying it out loud, I'm even getting a little emotional because I
Yeah.
know I want to share it. I know it's going to change people's lives. But at the same time, I haven't shared that. I've shared it in private situations where I think it will help someone. But now that's going to be my story. And when I
Oh, I
first
love
realized I needed
that.
to do that, it was pretty scary. And the first line after that in my about page is going to be all about, you know, um, there are quotes. We're calling the police and we're pressing charges. And then, I go on to talk about that was the first time I really felt like I couldn't do my life that way. So
We're going to
really,
have to film a segment with you. Stay tuned, folks.
well, that's funny that you say that. I was working with my business coach, and he didn't know that either. He's a really high level coach, and he said, well, you can't leave it at that. You got to tell me the whole story.
The
So
whole
I start
story.
telling him the story, and I'm like, what do you think? Because I'm nervous, but I know it's the right thing. And he said, I felt like I was watching a movie. So I thought, okay, I'm on the right path because it's not about getting attention. It's about getting the right attention so that you can have impact.
And you know what? And I'm so glad you brought this up. And I'm so excited for you. Is that the best features that I do and the best stories is when you speak from a scar, not from a wound. When you have the lessons learned and you're able to share what you experienced from a place of, I went through it and look where I am now and I'm healed. And I want to share that with you so that if you're going through what I'm going through now, and or you've experienced something similar, you too will get here. And it just gives people so much hope.
Right.
And that is the point. You know, hope is a really powerful word. And that is the point of why we share our stories.
I love that. Okay, so how do you combine, because business is business, and you've got to
Yes,
get the numbers and you've got to make it
absolutely.
work. And if somebody is going to pay a coach, let's say somebody is paying you to do this, obviously you've got to get results. Tell us what kind of results you get. But then one of the things I love is how you tie it into the heart. We got to tell your story and why and the impact we're going to have and the people we're going to help. Combine those two things and just tell me about that, and how, starting with
Sure.
the results.
Well, you know, I think what's so appealing about what we do is we give you this amazing in-depth interview that you get to feature on all your social media channels. A lot of people put it first and
Oh,
foremost on their website. So when you click on their website, there they are and there's their story. And what it does is it attracts the really big news channels, the big shows, the Today shows, the whatever. When those big shows are looking for people, they go through their social media, right? They look to see what is their presence on camera. Are they able to share their stories succinctly and well? And we make you look like a star. You know, we make you look like you're amazing. And so it's been really helpful for some people. It's really gotten them to the next level and being able to share the story on an even a much bigger scale, an international scale, you know,
wow.
not just within the city or what we do. We also promote it on all of our channels and
Right,
YouTube
right.
and our websites, and of course, and so that's great as well. But a lot of people want to share their story on a big, big, big scale. And of course, it gets so many people to start following you because once people hear your story, they're invested, right? They now want to follow your journey forever. So a lot of people then start writing books and they, it launches so much. So many people are afraid to turn the camera on themselves. So we help you with that.
Yeah, yeah.
And we get you to share your story when you're not just sitting there in front of the camera, because that can get awkward.
Right. And because you're asking questions, it makes it feel more like I'm not bragging about myself. I'm not
For sure.
share all my
Absolutely.
stuff.
It's a much
more,
easier way to share your
that's
story.
interesting. Okay. So how do you find your clients? Like, what do you do to have clients? Because every business needs clients. And of
Absolutely.
course you're in your niche, but number one, how do you find your clients and what are you looking for?
Well, back when I started, we did a lot of marketing and advertising, of course, within the cities that we were filming in. Now, just because it's becoming so much more well known, and now I would say I don't need to advertise as much, but my podcast has been great for marketing and bringing people through to then, after we have an interview and we talk to them, they also know that I do these features and they're like, oh, now I want to do one of these too. And I said, absolutely. So that's been wonderful as well. But a lot of it right now is word of mouth. Thank goodness is word of mouth and them seeing other people's videos and wanting the same for themselves because they see the traction that it has and the value that it brings to your business. And customer loyalty. And who doesn't want that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I want you guys, those of you who are listening, I want you to notice something that she just said. I want you to realize that whenever we're talking with someone and they talk about word of mouth, that the fact that they are getting word of mouth like this, that says a lot about you, Molly, about what you are giving, the value you're offering. And of course, we need to market and all of those things. But the reality is when you've got a lot of word of mouth, that is a huge that shows a huge foundation. You're seeing the tip of the iceberg today, but that means that the rest of the iceberg is under there so deep you can't even. It's like you said, it took me 20 years.
20 years.
Which is so true.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I took little pieces from everything that I've done, all the different businesses I've launched and started.
Yes.
My path has not been straight, right? It's been very winding, but I wouldn't have it any other way because I have built so much experience from every little business I started, the ones that succeeded, the ones that didn't. There's no way I could be doing what I did today without going through all of that.
Exactly. And I think one of the biggest, what you're talking about is one of the biggest myths that people have is they think that if they come to a fork in the road and they see the road sign would say success is this direction and failure is that direction. What they don't understand is that success and failure are in the same direction. And every time you have a quote failure, all that is another thing you now know that doesn't work. So the people who are crazy successful like you have peeled off, oh, that didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. People call them failures, but your whole attitude about them is one of the things that has led you to where you are today. So
100%. And I have a whole speech or talk that I do called Failing Forward because I do believe that's what it is. And I hate calling them failures because I don't look at them as failures, but every failure that I've had has pushed me forward, has gotten me here.
Exactly.
And I want to celebrate them. I think it's great that I failed as many times as I did. That means I tried. That means I expanded. That means I grew. And so I'm high-fiving anybody who has failures. That means you're trying, you're risking, and all the things that it takes.
Yes. Okay. So I have a question for you. Have you found, do you believe that the more, well, I should just say, what is your belief on, we're talking about failure. Mm-hmm. The more your attitude is excited about failure, even if the quote failure makes you go home and cry that night, whatever, your attitude, the better your attitude is about failure and how excited you are, the faster you fail forward.
That is a great question. The more I fail, the less I fear failing. That's for sure. And I think the biggest thing that holds so many people back is that fear of failure, of public opinion. that you failed, right?
Yes.
And so once I failed enough times in front of everybody, I don't care anymore. And nobody sees that. What they see is that I tried, and look at what she's doing now. And nobody pays attention. As much as we'd all like to think how much people pay attention to every little thing we do, they really don't. They're not checking up on you. Do you know what I mean? To see how much money you made off of that initiative, or what that business brought in for you. They're just looking at, wow, look at her going. And so yeah, I think I really don't have a fear of failure anymore, because I'm so addicted to the trying something new, and let's see how we can be creative with this, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But guess what? I learned something, and I'm going to take that knowledge to the next thing. Yes. And so to me, it's exciting. It is, and maybe I'm just, different that way, but it's gotten me this far. And so, I think once you can get that mindset shift of letting fear propel you, fear is never going to go away. It's not. But you can learn how to make it work for you instead of against you.
Exactly. And one of the things I love that you talk about is that you're less afraid the more you step into it. And I love that. One of the things I like to talk about is how people think fear is not even real. Actual fear, what fear really means is a concern about a real and present danger. A bear is going to attack you. When we are worried about something that's not going to work, that's not really even fear. It's more, we're anxious. It's just, we're worried about something that we don't even know what the outcome is. And so when you talk about getting rid of that fear, you're not even afraid of that anymore. You're like, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to step into it and go see.
Yes.
So I love that. Yeah. And this is why you've created what you've created. So tell me, what obstacles have you had to get over? What are some of the hardest things you've dealt with? And how did you get past those? Because people who are listening, that's the biggest, that it's the biggest limiting belief. It's the issue.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been through many obstacles, and some people have been through way worse. So, my obstacles fall somewhere in the middle. But, even starting out very young, I feel very lucky because my first big obstacle in life happened in my teens, and it really helped me see life in a very different way. And I'm grateful for it. So I was very ill in my teens, and I suffered from an illness, and I suffered from some weird strain of it. It was Lyme's disease, but it was some weird strain of it that really ravaged my body. I couldn't move from the neck down. At one point, it had gone into my brain where I couldn't speak. I had the words in my mind, but I couldn't speak them. It had affected the synapse. So you can imagine, I was a teen in middle school with an IV pole, right? And going through those really rough years, and by some miracle, I came through it, and I'll spare everybody the whole story of it. But what it gave me was gratitude, right? For every day. And I remember sitting there in this little corner on this chair in my parents' room being like, if you just get me through this, I promise you I will make the most of each and every day. I promise you, I literally just remember it so vividly. And I did come through it. And so then I felt I had a purpose, right? If I came through this, there's a reason, and I better make the most of whatever's coming my way. And so that was a really pivotal moment for me, in knowing that I pulled through it for a reason, and I knew how powerful it was to have a voice. And clearly I've recovered, right? So, and I am able to speak and move.
You're doing amazing. So now people are going to want to know, where can I go hear her whole story, and how did she get past it? Because they have challenges with their health as well.
For sure. And I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about it. But I think then I didn't sweat the small stuff is what that taught me. Right. So when I found myself in a position, right out of college, I got a job on Wall Street, which, you would think is amazing. And on paper, my life looked great. But I realized real quick, I was looking at all these very, very successful people who had more money than they knew what to do with, and they were miserable. Okay. They were miserable. And I go, oh my God, this is going to be my future. I don't want this. If this is what it is, they're not living their passion. They're not excited doing what they do every day. And I'm not saying it's everybody that was down there, but there were quite a few. And so it really, then I said, I don't think this is the best use of my time in my life and my talents. And so I took the leap to follow my passions and my purpose. And I wanted to use my creative side. And that's when I started my entrepreneurial journey. And so, just some obstacles came in. Okay, what happens when you're starting your own business? Where do you get funding? Where do you find the money to start your own business, right? You're doing it all by yourself. And so learning that and getting through those obstacles, I got married and all of that. I also got divorced. So that's a huge second obstacle of my life, I would say, was going through through the divorce and realizing that I was a single mom. And I had to figure out real quick how to make what I knew how to do bigger and more financially helpful for me and my two girls who were 4 and 6 at the time. And so that was a whole mindset shift, right? I allowed myself about a month to grieve and be sad and curl up on the fetal position, right? Yeah. And then I realized that if I'm going to do this and I'm going to make the most of this and keep my kids okay, I better figure out something, because they're going to be okay if they see that I'm okay. That's really important for them. So, I always advise any of my friends who go through divorce or who are going through those kind of financial difficult times or whatever you're facing, is that if you have kids, you've got to show them how to pull through it, because newsflash, they're going to get obstacles thrown at them too, and they're going to learn from you how to get through them and how to get up in the morning and how to still pursue your dreams now as a single mom, and to not let that make you seem less than. I'm still whole. I am not a fraction of myself just because, I went through a divorce and I don't have a husband. I am still me. I am still whole. We're going to be just fine. So then, at the time that I got divorced, I had a small retail store in town. And I said, all right, I know how to do this, but I need to make it bigger. So I got to go into a city where there's more foot traffic and I can have more square footage of space and I can bring in more clothing to sell more, right?
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay. Anyway, long story short, I opened up another store in Chicago and I brought my girls with me. They helped me do inventory. They watched a woman start another business literally from the ground up. We did the build out and everything. They watched how hard I worked and that they knew, however, that they were involved. They call it their store, It was our store. And they were so, so, so proud of it. And so was I, of course. And that was just honestly, looking back, and I love what I do now. Don't get me wrong. This is my most favorite time of my life. But those retail stores that I had, especially the one in Chicago, was so important to me and my girls, because it got me and us through one of the most difficult times, because it gave us something to look forward to, and it gave them a role model of a woman who built their business, and really was happy and joyful and was succeeding.
That's really good stuff. And also it's a special thing you guys did together.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure that those will be fond memories for them as well, all forever. Okay, so one thing that is really powerful, you are really good at bringing out the different sides. Obviously, you're good at what you do, but most people, when they talk about how they overcame something or when they were going through something hard, most people in the world will either focus on the hard, horrible thing and they have a hard time getting past it, or they focus on only how they came through and you can do it and it's awesome and you got this. But what I loved is that you were really clear. I spent a month grieving, and it wasn't just, I was sat in fetal position. This was real, and I let myself go through the hard thing, but it wasn't so that I can pity myself and go through the hard thing. It's because we need to have self-care. And when we're going through trauma or anything difficult, even small things, we need to let ourselves experience it, go through it, not just sneak around it, not try to.
So important.
Right. And so you did the grieving, and then knowing that your journey was going to be, and maybe the first few days of grieving, you're not like, okay, I'm going to grieve so that I can get to this place.
No.
Just grieve, and that's okay. But then now the focus becomes, okay, it's time to rise above now. And it takes both pieces, because one of the things I love that you said is, my kids were watching me and they needed to see that I was going to be able to handle it. They also saw that you grieved and that you were sad about that relationship that ended and their dad or whatever that was hard for them. That example of both of those pieces is just invaluable for them. So,
yeah, I think it's okay to give your kids permission to feel their feelings, right?
Yes.
It's okay to fall apart when your world falls apart. Just don't do it for too long.
Yeah, and with your psychology background, that's perfect. I'm sure you're just like, I love it. It's so funny because I always give myself deadlines. If there's an issue that I'm like, okay, I'm letting myself hang on to this too long.
Yes.
Give myself deadlines. So as soon as you
I do the same thing.
I give myself a month. I'm like, oh, okay, we will get along.
I do the same thing. And I do it to my friends too. And I go, okay, I'm going to give you 3 days to feel sad. And then you're going to shower, you're going to get dressed, and we're going out to dinner. But you have 3 days, and I will pity party. You can eat all the ice cream you want. Okay. But that's it.
Funny that, yeah, that's exactly. And you, like, I'll tell them, yeah, do whatever. You gripe, you complain, you call me, you whatever you want. But after that, it's time to get a grip.
Yes. Right. We have to.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, what if you could go back to your younger self and tell, like, the brand new entrepreneur, what would you tell yourself? What do you wish you had known? Because one of the things I love teaching people, I get so excited to teach my clients all the things I wish I had known that would have saved me the time, the learning curve, the heartache. It would have just been fun to already know those. It's like, the electrician who gets to learn everything that Thomas Edison already knew before they even get started. All the things you wish you had known.
A lot.
Like all the things that I learned all the way.
On a much bigger level, and then I'll make it more specific. On a bigger level, I wish I could go back and tell myself their opinions don't matter. You do you, and you stay true to you. That's the big level, right? The smaller level, like, there's so many tactical things that I could say. I had and have a really hard time letting go of any part of my business. And what it's like it's my
entrepreneur.
Yeah, right. Screams entrepreneur. It shouts it. I want to do it all. And what I learned was, and I wish I had learned this much earlier, is that what my blind spots are. Yeah. And that I need to hire accordingly, because we all have blind spots. Yeah. None of us can do it all. It's not possible. You're actually going to probably implode if you continue to do it all. And so for your business to grow, if that's what your goal is, you've got to bring people on that can cover your blind spots. So really taking a self-assessment and really being able to know what your blind spots are, and then finding experts in that, I think is critical for a business to grow. And I wish I would have figured that out a lot easier or a lot earlier.
Cover your blind spots. I love that. I'm actually even writing that down.
Because what it does is it makes your business run more efficiently so that you can do what you're good at. And so that's been my team, especially my core team. I have 2 amazing women who really are the brains of the entire operation. The other smart thing that I did was surround myself with people who are smarter than me. So, and they just make me look good. So, that has made all the difference, and I couldn't do it without them. And I admit that, and I will say it publicly for, forever, because they're so amazing, and they are a huge part of why I'm able to do what I do today.
Yeah. Wow. So one of the things that we were talking about earlier that really hit me kind of hard is when we were talking about you getting people's story out there and what's one of the most passionate, exciting things for you. And we ended up talking a little bit about some of you actually work with some celebrities and high level business owners and business people, well-known names. And so what is it that you do that attracts that kind of client? And share with them kind of what you were telling me earlier.
Sure, absolutely. And it's something that I stumbled in accidentally. Someone I was working with, they knew that I am pretty even keeled and that I can handle crisis in my own life pretty well. And they work with celebrities. And so he came to me and was like, I need help with this. I have this client. I also had I can't even go there, but they came to me and they said, what would you do, in this situation? And I said exactly what I would do. And I wrote out.
Clarify, because I didn't clarify this. This is for PR.
Correct.
People's names out. Yeah. Because
yes. So when people who are public figures find themselves in crisis, especially during these past few years with cancel culture and all of that's going on, if people make one mistake, they are canceled, right? And it's like, you don't even give people a chance to learn from their mistakes. Right. They're automatically canceled. And so I have a lot of thoughts on that. But what I do is I try to help manage that time in between that crisis to when we release, a press release and getting their side out and their intent. Because really that people don't look at was, what was their intent behind what they did? It wasn't malicious. They made a mistake. And sometimes it was 5, 10, 15 years ago that you're now bringing back up, and they're not that same person.
And culture has changed where those words might have been acceptable and fine.
100%. Thank goodness what I did 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago wasn't for public. Some of it is, And so, I could go on and on forever about it, but it is my passion, right? Because it's just because of all the amazing humans I've met that have had this happen to them over the past. I probably started doing this 7 years ago. I work with politicians and public figures and, reality stars. Oh boy. Those are always in hot water. It's never mean intent, right? They're just, sometimes we don't know what we don't know until we know it. So give them a chance to share what they were feeling, what their thoughts were at the time, or how they've learned from it, and give someone the grace to show you that they're going to do better, that they have learned from it. Thank you so much for pointing it out to me. I will now do better. Right. And so that has just been, really part of this new Spotlight series and all of it. And again, I'm still promoting all the amazing entrepreneurs and thought leaders, but also people who want and deserve a second act, a chance to share their story, to get their truth out, to discuss what they've been through, what they've learned from it, and what they're looking to do now to make themselves better. Because guess what? By them sharing their story, they're going to keep other people from making that same mistake.
Right. And it also helps people realize, don't forget that we're human. We're all human. We're having a human experience, learning as we go. And we all need a little bit of leeway.
The judgment is crazy on each other. And I don't know about you, but in my 42 years, I have never met one perfect person. So thankfully, no one has yet held a magnifying glass to one of my thousands of mistakes. But, if they do, I hope someone would give me the platform and the chance to share my truth and my story and what I learned from it so that they can learn not to do the same thing.
Exactly. It makes me think of the story in thousands of year old book, the Bible, where the woman is caught in sin and people are going to throw stones at her. That was the method of the day. That is what they did. It was absolutely acceptable to stone them to death, and very, very painful. And yet Jesus came and said, let he who's without sin cast the first stone. And then what happened? Everybody in shame turned away and left, because we've all done something. And it's like you said, I would hate to have people go back in my past. And my hope is that people will give me a chance.
Yes.
So then we need to give each other a chance.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So as we end our interview, I would love for you to share with people. We're going to make sure you guys know how to get in touch with Molly, because she's phenomenal. She gets results for her clients. And if you're ready for that, then we want to make sure that you get to connect with her and her team to see if maybe it's a good fit. And that's what part of the reason we bring these people to you, so that you can learn from them. So for the people who feel like either I'm interested in connecting with Molly or I want to do it on my own, either way, that there are some steps they can start taking. What would you say are the first 2, 3, 4 most important steps to be doing to get themselves out there, and steps that would either help them in their business if they're doing it on their own, or be the perfect steps to prepare if they're going to work with someone like you?
Absolutely. Okay. So if they're doing their business on their own, which a lot of people are, I always suggest, first of all, get really comfortable with social media, right? You've got to, so many people are afraid to go on Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube.
Do they have to? That's what people always ask. Do I have to?
And my answer is yes.
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 Hey,
yes, you have to. That is one thing that you have to do. And again, I know it's scary if you're not comfortable with it, but you can start with baby steps. Okay. So just get comfortable with it. Start posting your photos, do whatever. You don't have to be in it yet. Okay. But just get comfortable with the different platforms, how they're used, and how it's best used for your business. Okay, so now you're comfortable with it. Now we're bringing you into the fold. Okay, we have to get you in there.
And how long do they have to wait before they need to do this?
I mean, I want to say day 2, but I will give you a grace period of about 1 month. Not even, maybe. If I'm feeling generous, I will give you 1 month.
Pushing it. Okay. This is your deadline, you guys.
Listen, if you want results, life is fast right now. You have a very short time to make a first impression, and the algorithms show the traction in the beginning. If you can make it happen in the very, very beginning, your post will keep showing. It'll keep growing. Okay, so as quick as you can get on there, a few days, a few weeks, I'll give you. Please get in there. Even if you don't want to be on video yet, that's fine, but get in the photo. People want to see you. They want to see the human, right? That's how we connect. They want to see the human side of this business. Now that you're in a few photos, now it's time to speak. People need to hear you. They need to hear the passion behind your voice and your why. Why is this product so important to you? How is it going to help my life? I want to hear from you because that will create trust and loyalty. So if you don't have a camera crew coming to your house with me, take your own phone. Just prop it up. Speak about something that's passionate. If you're not comfortable talking about your product just yet, talk about your kids, talk about your dogs, talk about something so that people can see you light up. People are attracted to people who light up and are passionate. And all of a sudden, I'll tune into you and you may be talking about how much you love cooking. I don't like cooking. But if I see you being passionate about it, I'll be like, that sounds really exciting, actually. Maybe I should get into cooking. So that, those are my first, kind of few tips. It's just get yourself out there. And again, if you need to do it all on your own, you don't have the finances to maybe, invest right now in bringing people to cover your blind spots, because that's probably step 7, 8, 9, or 10. Look for someone who's young, who needs that experience on their resume. Interns are great. College interns, high school interns, they're all looking for stuff to put on their resumes, and they love to have experience. And so that's where I would start out, just getting the extra help to cover your blind spots.
Love that. Okay. Those are some practical steps that you guys can take from an expert who is working with high level clients. So we want to thank you, Molly, for coming and taking the time to share that with us. Any last words of advice for our audience where you're going, this is what I would tell my child if, the last time I'm talking to him or whatever.
My advice is always to go for it and to face your fears. And I promise you, the more you face them, the easier they will be. They will not be as fearful. Don't look at it as trying to get rid of your fear. Guide you. And if your dream matters, your passion matters to you, then it matters. So go for it.
Love it. Good stuff. Thank you so much, Molly.
Thank you.
Really are honored to have you on.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So good luck with your endeavors. And we're going to have a lot more people, I think, checking out some of those shows that you talked about. We'll make sure those are in the show notes, you guys. So be watching for that. Click on those links. Go find Molly. Go find her shows and see what she's up to. Some really, really good stuff. All right. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.